member functions. Students, today's topic in the C++ is this is very important topics, member function. So, in this lecture we will study these topics, method of definition, inline function implementation, constant member functions, friend functions, friend classes, static function. So, before proceeding my lecture, first of all I will give more description regarding the member function. In C++ or C programming or any other programming language, why function is important for the programming languages? In the programming language, when you write a program of any program, either scientific program or mathematical program, then anything which is frequently used in our program or after some part of the program, you will be used, that thing is again executed, and after some line of program again you have to be executing. So, you have to be declare a function, then the thing is not repeated and the memory space and the calculation time of your program will be fast. So, that is why we have to be using the different type of functions. First of all, method of definition, or you can say it is a member of functions definition. A member of function of a class is a function that has definition or it is prototype within the class definition like any other variable. It operates any object of class of which it is member, and it has access to all the member of class for the object. So, in the member of class, it is not, it is simply it is a prototype within the class definition. जिमें असी होर वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर कर दें, any integer variable define कर दें. So, same like we have to be declaring the function in, it is a prototype within the class. So, this thing is very much clear. So, when you have to be declaring a function, so that is in within the class. So, this is the member of class for the object. To assess the member of class using member function instead of directly assess them. To assess the member of class using a member function instead of directly assessing them. So, for this is the example to declare how to declare a function or in the within the class. So, it is a class, that is a box, parenthesis sign, public is a double length. So, concatenation length of a box. So, कितनी length कितनी है box दी, then double breadth, then the breadth of the box, then height of the box. So, double get volume. So, by this you have to be return the volume of a box. So, this is a one class, this is a one function within the class you have to be declared, because in this definition we have to specify the member of function is class, that is definition is a prototype within the class definition like an other variable. So, we have to be declared like a integer variable or float variable. So, same like in the class we have to be declared like this. So, next one is the inline function, inline function of implementation. Inline expression is used to eliminate the time overhead, excess of time when a function is called. So, basically whenever you implement the function, so main task is to eliminate the time of access time, we have to eliminate that. How much you reduce the execution time of your program, the program is so fast. So, we need to concentrate, access time is the minimum time to fast executing our program. So, inline expression is used to eliminate the time overhead access time when a function is called. It is typically used for function that execute frequently. So, inline function means the things that is frequently executed within our program. So, it is typically used for function that execute frequently. It also has a space benefit for very small function and is an enabling transformation for the optimization. So, inline function is used to eliminate the time overhead or access time when function is called. So, whenever you have to function call, the access time of your program should be eliminated. So, that is why your function implementation is a fast rather than you write a simple syntax or executing the thing within the program. That is why you have to be using the inline expansion or used to eliminate the access time of when the function is called. So, without inline function, however, the compiler decide which function is to inline. The programmer has little or no control over which the function are inlined and which are not. Giving this degree of control to the programmer allow for us application specifically knowledge in choosing which function to be inline. So, inline expression is used to eliminate the time overhead access time when function is called. It is typically used for function to execute frequently. It also has specified benefit for all small functions and it is an enabling transformation for optimization without an inline function. However, the compiler decides which function to inline. The program has little or no control over which the function are inlined which are not. Giving this degree of control to the programmer allow for the use of application specific knowledge in choose which function is to inline. Other definition: an inline function is a combination of macro and function at the time of declaration or definition. The function name is preceded by the word inline. So, whenever you have to be declare any function, so before we starting you have to be giving the name of function, like there any variable you have to declare any integer variable a equal to something, ja a b c any variable you have to be declared. Like same like that in the macro and function at the time of declaration you are giving the function name of the function when you call that one. So, this function you have to be declared. So, by that name you will be called. When inline function are used, the overhead of function call is eliminated. Instead, that executable statement of function are copied at the place of each function call, this done by the compiler. So, basically when you declare the function, that is separate issue. When the body of that function that should be executed. So, when inline function are used, the overhead function call is eliminated. Instead of the executable statements of the function are copied at the place of each function call, this done by the compiler. So, consider following example. So, it is very much clear from the declaring of a function or executing a function. So, now you have to be clear from the this example. So, this is one is a standard library function and include input output stream using namespace student standard inline integer square root integer x. So, here is we have to declaring a function inline, that is a square root, and square root is a x, x is basically it is a integer variable. So, we have to find the square root of x. So, basically x is a integer variable. So, in the body of that function, that integer value is a y, then semicolon, y equal to x multiply x. So, y is the value of x multiply x and return of y. So, that value of integer, that is the x multiply x. So, whenever you return, you have to return the y, y is basically x multiplied by x, whatever the value of x multiplied by x, that should be returned by the y. So, in the main, so this is a body function, in the main integer a equal to 3 comma b equal to square of a, c out output equal to b, return. So, in this, so you have to be clear here, the statement b equal to square of a is a function called square, but since we have declare it is as a inline, the compiler replace the statement within the executable statement of the function b equal to a square root a. So, within the function it is a b equal to a square root a. So, in the main function where integer equal to a equal to 3 comma b semicolon b equal to square of a. So, please note that the inline is a requested to compiler if it is very complicated function, compiler may not be able to convert it to inline function. So, this is very much clear by the compiler. So, by the compiler decide, so how we should be executable for executable statement like a function. So, then it will be remain as it is, for example, recursive function, function containing static variable, function containing return statement or loop or go to or switch statement are not made inline, but if declarative them. So, also small function which are defined inside a class, there is code written inside the class are taken as inline by the compiler, even we do not explicitly declare them. So, they are called auto-inline function. For example, when we have to be declaring any function or we have to declare a recursive function we need when you have to be executive first thing, then second. For example, you have to find the factorial of 10. 10 is simple, we have to find the factorial of 100 number. So, each execution after we have to be decrease 10, 100, 99 and so on. This way you have to be, then you have to be using the recursive function. So, also small function which are defined inside a class, that code written inside the class are taken as inline by the compiler, even if we do not explicitly declare them, are so are called auto inline function. Next one is the, we can also declare here is a any example of find the factorial of any number. So, you have to be write or you can be practicize any program to write the factorial of 10 numbers. Next one is the constant member function. A good thing, it means using the keyword constant to prevent constant objects from getting mounted. For example, if wanted to create a function f braces, so whenever you declare function f is the accepted standard string plus, so want to promise caller not to change the caller standard string that get the pass to function f. So, f is the name of function here. You can have f function receive its standard string parameter. So, the constant member function, a good thing that it mean using the keyword to constant prevent the constant objects from getting mounted. For example, if you want to create a function f that accepted a standard string plus you want to promises caller not to change the caller standard string that get passed to function, you can have a function receive its standard string parameters. So, this example for how to we declare the statement of function void f1 standard string constant ampersand s. So, pass the reference to the constant. So, whatever you have to constant declare in the function, you have to be pass the references. Second, void f2 standard string constant square root, pass the pointer to the constant. So, in the second statement you have to declare a function f2 standard string constant pointer to declare of that one. So, third one void f3 standard string as pass by the value. So, constant member function which you have to be passed by reference, passed by pointer, passed by value. So, by the three things you can be declare the function. So, by using of these you can be many time your the access of your program, access time of your program will be more reduced. Your program should be more fast and your memory should be less. In pass by reference to the constant or pass by pointer to the constant case or any attempt to change the caller standard string within function would be flagged by compiler as an error at compile time. This check is done entirely at compile time. There is a no runtime space or speed for constant. So, be careful, be concentrate on this thing in the pass by reference to the constant and pass by the pointer to the constant cases. Any attempt to change the caller's standard string within the function would be flagged by the compiler as an error at compile time. This check is done entirely at compile time. There is no runtime space or speed constant for the cost for the constants. So, pass by references, pass by pointer or pass by value. Reference, pointer and value where your memory is stored. Pointer any other variable should be declared and reference one variable refer to the another variable. So, this way you can be declared. In pass by value case f3, the function get a copy of caller's standard string. This means that f3 can change its local copy, but the copy is destroyed when f3 return parameter f3 cannot change caller's standard string object. So, in this case pass by value in f3 case, in f3 case के pass by value where f3 equal to standard string s copy of caller standard string. This means f3 can change its local copy. So, within the local parameter your copy change, but the copy is destroyed when f3 return. So, whatever change made by the macro level you have to be changed it, but when you at the caller type, when the program compiler at the caller call that function that is destroyed, then when f3 return, in particular f3 cannot change caller standard string object. So, caller जदों भी program call करेगा उस टाइम जी F3 की वैल्यू वो चेंज नहीं होएगी. एट द लेवल ऑफ द एग्जीक्यूशन टाइम योर कॉपीज will be changed at the local end. So, and when the function is called, that should the local level that is destroyed, and F3 return in particular F3 cannot change with the caller standard. As an opposite example, suppose you want to create a function g that accepted a standard string, but you want to let callers know that the g might change the caller's standard string object. In this case, you can have g receive its standard string parameters. Once again, as an opposite example of, suppose you want to create a function g that accepted standard string, you want to let caller know to that g might change the caller's standard string object. In this case, you can have g receive its standard string parameters, the void g1 standard string and s pass by reference to non constant. So, here is the pass by reference to non constants, void g2 standard string script pass by pointer to non constant. To lack of constant in these function, tell the compiler that they are allowed to but not required to change the caller standard object. The lack of constant in these function, tell the compiler that they are allowed to but are not required to change the caller's standard string object. Thus, they can pass their standard string to any of the function, but only F3 on the receive its parameter y value can pass its standard string to go g1 or g2 if g1 or g1 or g2 if f1 or f2 need to call either g1 function or local copy of the standard string object must be passed by g function. The parameter to f1 or f2 cannot directly pass either g function. So, from the g1 is the standard pass by reference non constant and g2 pass by pointer non constant. So, thus they can pass their standard string of any of the function f, but only f3. So, f3 here is the f3 standard string pass by value. So, f1, f2, f3 where is the pass by reference to the constant, pointer to the constant and pass by value, and g1 is standard string by reference non constant pass by pointer non constant. Thus, the pass their standard string any of the function f, but only f3 the pass by value. Then the receive ends parameter by the value can pass its standard string g1 or g2. If f1 or f2 need to call either g1 function, the local copy of standard string object must be passed to g1 function. The parameter to f1 or f2 cannot be directly passed to either g function. So, let us take example void g1 standard string ampersand s void f1. So, here g1 is a s compiler time error since s constant standard string a local copy of s. So, g1 equal to local copy, so not a constant value. So, naturally in the above case any change that g1 makes, so we have to be changed in the g1 makes. So, g1 you have to be changed the makes to local copy object, the local of f1 in particular no change will be made in. So, when you have to be changed in the g1 makes or made to the local copy object, that local to f1 in particular no change will be made to the constant parameter that was passed by the reference to f1. So, reference to the f1. So, local copy g1 should be changed, remain same. So, constant parameter that was passed by the reference to f1, reference to f1. So, next one is the friend function. In object oriented programming, a friend function, that is a friend of given class, is allowed to access to private and protective data in that class that it would not normally be able to as if the data was public. Normally, function that defined outside of a class cannot access such information. Declaring a function a friend of class allow this in a language where the concept is supported. In the friend function, once again you see it in object oriented program, friend function, that is a friend that is a friend is given class allowed to access to the private and protective data in that class. So, like a friend means you have the private and protective information to your friend, not disclose. So, same like in the C++, in the class that would not be normal to able to access if the data was publicly. If you have to declare the publicly, your data is not accessed by the anyone. Normally, so anyone not means whatever the know the value of the function. Normally, a function that defined outside of a class cannot access such information. So, class to bar nobody can be access that information. Declaring a function of a friend of class allow this in language where the concept is supported. A friend function is declared by the class that is granting access explicitly string what function from a class is allowed to access. A similar concept is that a friend class. So, friend function is declared by the class that granting the access of explicitly string explicitly stating by what function from the class is allowed to access. A similarly concept is that friend class, the friend should be used with the caution too many function or externally classes declared as friends of class with the protective or private data may listen the value of encapsulation of the separate class in object oriented programming and may indicate a problem in the overall architecture design. Generally, though the friend function are a good thing for encapsulation, as you can keep the data of class private from all except those who use the explicit state need it. But this does not mean your class will become a tight coupled. So, friend should be used within caution. Too many functions are externally classes declared as a friend of class with the protective or private data may listen the value of encapsulation, separated classes in object oriented programming and many indicate the problem in the overall architecture design. Generally, though the friend functions are good things for encapsulation, you can keep data of class private from the explicitly. Those who use the explicitly state needed it, but this does mean your class will be became tight coupled. The approach may be used in friendly function when function need to access private data in object form to different classes. This may be accomplished in two similar way. This approach may be used to friendly function